Ms. Spelling, thank you for meeting with me on such short notice. It's now 1:21 p.m. and I'd like to begin this meeting. I want to discuss with you my observations from this morning that occurred approximately between 7:30 and 7:50 a.m. I'd then like to hear your observations about the time frame. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. This morning as I was on my way to a meeting, I heard some students from your end of the hallway, and I looked at the clock and it was 7:34 a.m. And I went down because I noticed some kids out in the hallway, and then when I peeked into your room, I also noticed some kids kind of dancing around and standing on desks, but I didn't see a teacher present. And so I was concerned. So I approached the students and I asked them if they had a teacher, and they said they hadn't seen anybody yet. And so I called for everybody to come into class and I took attendance. I then called down to the principal because I was on my way to a meeting with him. I called our secretary, asked if perhaps you had called out sick and the sub wasn't in yet, and after verifying that you hadn't called in sick, I got the students going on what they thought was their assignment, and which they said they were studying for a test that you were supposed to be giving today. And I kind of just waited for you to arrive. So at approximately 7:48 a.m., you entered the classroom and you kind of like yelled or spoke in a loud tone and said, "What are you guys doing?" And then I think it's at that point that you made eye contact with me and you noticed that I was in the classroom. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, I don't really know what you did because I wasn't there.
Okay, correct, that's fair. You weren't there. I'm just trying to provide you with my observations, and then you can provide me with yours. So, after you and I made eye contact, I walked to the front of the room and met you at your desk, and in a quiet voice I asked if you were okay. You stated that you were fine, that you were just kind of running a little bit late. I stated that I was glad that you were okay, and then I updated you by telling you that I had taken attendance and that the students were been reviewing for the test. I then asked if you were free during your prep block today at 1:15, as I wanted to meet with you. You stated that you were free and that you could meet with me. I then left your classroom and sent you an Outlook calendar meeting message reminder that you accepted. So now at this time, would you like to share your observations about this morning?
Sure. I was running a little late. The line at Dunkin' got really long. I pulled into the parking lot around 7:45 and got up to my classroom as soon as I could, so it makes sense that you said I got there around 7:48. I don't remember exactly what we talked about. I was a little discombobulated because I was running late and had my Dunkin' and all my stuff, so I was just a little distorted. But yeah, he did ask if I was okay. I remember you asking me that. I accepted the meeting and I'm here, so I'm obviously free.
The reason I wanted to meet with you today is because I'm concerned that not only were you late to school today, but the students were unattended. Do you understand my concerns?
Yeah, but they weren't unattended because you were there.
I just happened to be walking by and noticed that they were unattended. If I had not walked by, we don't know how long they would have been left alone.
Okay.
So I'm concerned about your punctuality. When was the last time you were late for school?
Maybe last week.
So do you struggle to get to appointments or meetings on time as well?
Not that I've ever really noticed. No one's ever said anything to me about my punctuality or me being late.
So you were 6 minutes late for this meeting today. The meeting time was set for 1:15 and you arrived at 1:21.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Time got away from me.
So the Code of Professional Responsibility for Teachers indicates that the professional teacher, in full recognition of his or her obligation to the student, shall not engage in any misconduct which would put the students at risk. I believe that because the students were unattended, that they were put at risk today. Here's a copy of the code for you to have to review.
Yikes. I didn't think it was that big of a deal.
The student safety and well-being are our utmost responsibility. Your presence in the classroom assures that there is an adult there to monitor them and keep them safe. You are also the expert in emergency drills and evacuations.
Okay, I get it now.
Also, the agreed upon contract between the East Haddam Board of Education and the East Haddam Education Association running from 2017 to 2020 indicates on Article 4, Section A, the workday, that teachers will arrive at work at least 10 minutes before the student day and shall remain at work at least 15 minutes after the end of the school day. So here's a copy of the contract for you to review as well.
Thank you.
So the student school day starts at 7:30 a.m. and it ends at 2 o'clock. So by your contract, you have to arrive here every day by 7:20 a.m. and you can't leave until 2:15 p.m. Would you agree with that statement based upon the student day schedule and the contract?
Yeah, I totally agree. I just had never really thought about it like that before. I mean, I know when class starts and when my kids are supposed to be here in my room and when I should be here because they're here, but I never thought about it as a specific time, if that made sense.
That does make sense. And during the day today, I spoke with one of your EHA building representatives, and I suggested that he remind every association member of the contracted arrival and departure times.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think other people maybe need to be reminded too.
So based upon our shared observations and now our shared interpretations, we have to come to a joint conclusion. Would you like to speak first about what you believed our shared conclusion should be?
Yeah, sure, totally. I just think I'll never be late again. It puts the students in danger.
I want to support you on that, and I think that's a great goal, but based upon kind of your pattern of lateness and your struggle with punctuality, I don't want to set you up for failure. So let's instead think of a plan that you and I can work together to kind of help support you building yourself in your punctuality, and then me being able to make sure all the students are saved. So I'm going to give you my cell phone number. And if you're ever late, or if it's 7:20 or 7:15 and you feel like you're not going to get here by 7:20, just text my cell or call my cell, and that way I'll know that maybe your room might be unattended, and then we'll kind of meet forward from there.
Okay, great. That sounds good. I was going to say we should maybe come up with a system, but yeah, that sounds good.
That's great. I'm glad we have a shared conclusion. So it's necessary for me to document what happened this morning and to document our meeting this afternoon. I crafted this letter about the events that occurred this morning. Please take the time to read this letter.
Does this go into my file?
Yes, this letter will go in your file. I will also type up these meeting minutes and our action plans. I will then share them with you for you to review. These meeting minutes will also go into your file.
Okay, and I'll sign those meeting minutes too?
Absolutely. If you want to, you do not have to.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we're meeting today to discuss my informal observation that I conducted on Monday, November 18th, and today is Thursday, November 22nd. So thank you for being on time for this meeting.
Actually, I was a little early.
You are right. You were early. I appreciate how hard you've been working to be punctual. I appreciate your dedication to the school and your students.
Thanks.
I would like to begin by reviewing my notes regarding my observation in your classroom on October 18th.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so let's open up Ed Reflect so I can review my notes. I printed a hard copy of the Connecticut Common Core of Teaching rubric so that we can go through it together. Okay. So we are going to talk about Domain 1, which is classroom environment, student engagement, and commitment to learning, specifically 1B. We're also going to talk about Domain 2, planning for active learning, specifically domains 2B and 2C. And then we'll talk about Domain 3, which is instruction for active learning, and specifically Domain 3C. Okay?
Okay.
So I entered the classroom at 10:50 a.m. C block starts at 10:30, so class had been in session for 20 minutes. When I arrived, I observed the students in various stages of sleep.
Yeah, they were complaining they were really tired, so I decided I would make a deal with them. You know, if I let them sleep for a few minutes, they would not be able to complain for the rest of the class. Now they think about it, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
So in reflection, that strategy did not prove to be very effective.
Yeah, I guess not.
When you noticed me come into the room, we started to tell students to wake up. Some students woke up right away and
others did not wake up so easily.
Yes, some didn't wake up, so I kind of had to yell. Imagine meeting their parents.
I do know many of their parents, but so after some of the students awoke, you began by presenting information about the play you were currently reading, Macbeth. You started by talking about the time period of Shakespeare, Shakespeare's biography, and then the structure of the Shakespearean tragedy. It's obvious that you have a great deal of content knowledge about Shakespeare.
Oh my gosh, I love Shakespeare.
I noticed, though, that during this time, which was approximately 30 minutes, you were lecturing and students were sitting in their desks, demonstrating that they were hearing. Do you believe that the students were truly listening and understood the information that you presented?
Yes, I do.
How do you know that they understood?
When I give them the test at the end of the unit, I will know for sure. But I really think they do listen.
How long is it until the unit test?
About 5 weeks.
So I'm concerned about the length of time between the presented information and the assessment of student understanding. My observations indicate that you are struggling to plan for active learning and for instruction for active learning, so domains 2 and 3. I think those are the areas that we can focus on. Okay.
What if students could demonstrate their understanding immediately, or they could self-assess and you could know in an instant who gets it and who doesn't?
What do you mean?
Is there an activity or a series of activities that you could do that would allow for the students to be dynamically engaged and demonstrate their understandings? A way for them to reflect on the information that was presented?
Yeah, probably, but I don't really have a lot of time to plan for that kind of stuff. You know I have other responsibilities outside of school.
Yes, I know that you have other responsibilities, just like everybody has other responsibilities outside of school. If you had time in school to plan, do you think that you would be able to create those activities?
Maybe. I don't know a lot of those new techniques still, like mastery-based learning and personalized learning and cooperative learning, visible learning, all that stuff makes my head spin.
It can be a lot, and I totally understand. Sometimes it's easier to manage when you have someone helping you, especially someone who's really good at that kind of thing. I'm thinking of someone in your department that is a really effective planner and has a lot of background knowledge in personalized learning and visible learning.
Oh, you mean Laura?
Yeah, Laura. Laura would be a great resource for you.
I've already talked to Laura.
Do you think she'd be willing to work with me?
Yes, I know she would. Do you feel comfortable speaking with her about that?
Yeah, I just don't want to add any more to her plate. She's super busy.
How about this? If I could get a sub for both of you, say for the last 2 hours of a day, that way you don't have to have time outside of school, you wouldn't have to do anything extra. You guys can pick the day and the time, whatever works best, and I'll support you with that.
Okay, that could work.
Great. I appreciate your desire to improve and support your students. In order to show growth, I want you to reflect on where you believe you are currently operating in regard to the CCT rubric. Let's look at 2B. Where do you think you fall on that rubric?
I guess between developing and below standard.
Okay, I would agree. So let's flip the page and let's look at 2C. Doing the same thing, where do you think you fall on the rubric now?
I guess the same as the one before. I feel like an awful teacher.
You are not a terrible teacher. You are self-reflecting and setting your baseline. You have potential for greatness.
I don't even want to look at domain 3.
Okay, then we won't look at domain 3. That's fine. Part of your responsibility is to do the informal post-observation log. So when you do that, reflect on our whole conversation and domain 3 and analyze where you are, what your baseline is for domain 3.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, so beyond planning for instruction and instruction for active learning, we need to look at student engagement. I'm really concerned that when I came in, the students were sleeping in your class. But I believe that working together, we can remedy this. What do you think?
I don't know. They're seniors and chronically lazy. I mean, you saw some of those kids in my class.
I do. I know a lot of those students, but I think that everybody has potential. And remember that our goal is to promote developmentally appropriate standards of behavior that support a productive learning environment for all students. as part of our professional responsibility. Have you set classroom behavioral expectations yet?
Yeah. I mean, no, not formally. They're seniors. They should know how to act.
I agree that our oldest students should have the skills to understand exactly what we want, but sometimes everybody needs reminders and support on what is expected of them. What are your expectations for your students' behaviors?
The same as everyone else's. I guess I think of our academic behavior rubric.
Me too! I think of our academic behavior rubric as well. Now, how could you communicate that with students?
I guess I could do an activity with them where they look at the academic behavior rubric and then they have to tell me what each level looks like. For example, they would have to tell me what it looks like to be prepared to meet expectations at that level or to exceed expectations.
I love that idea. You could also, instead of just telling them, or they could have the option to show you what it really looks like. That way you could include different learning styles. You could get some really great products.
Oh yeah, that's a cool idea.
You just started to create an activity that includes personalized learning and visible learning.
Wow, I guess I did.